was your impression of Daniel Straus in his comeback fight? What did you think?
I thought he fought a very smart, well-calculated fight, someone who realized that he needed that win to get himself above the hump. And when I talked to him in the back, off camera, and I'm getting goosebumps talking about it, he just straight up just said, I fucking need this. And it's not just financially, he needed it for his own mental stability to get through to the next thing in his life. Whatever it was, he needed it for him. And I think when it happened the way it happened, when he was able to get the knockout and the finish and look as good as he did and composed and relaxed, and I think he felt good and he was able to take a shot. He was able to, I think all the cobwebs got knocked off. And I think, honestly, Campos is a perfect fight for him in the first round of this tournament.
I think in a lot of ways you're right. And I think the one thing that I really saw out of Daniel's fight was he was able to go in and realize, you know what? I can do this. It wasn't just that something that I needed to do. I can do it, and I can be competitive. And that's sometimes a hard thing, because after you have that serious injury that he had, you got to have doubt. There's always going to be some doubt. And it's like, can I do this to that same level? And I'm not even saying he was at the same level in his last fight compared to what he was before the injury. But that fight allowed him now to go back into training and to realize, hey, I can push. I can get there. I can go back to the guy that I was. And I was very happy to see that he didn't go back to wrestling a lot in that first fight. He was taking angles. He was doing smart stand-up. He was controlling distance. And that's the hard thing when you're fighting, to realize, hey, how do I control that distance? Do I have that same speed? Am I able to look at this and read this, move myself back enough to now come with a counter? And he was able to do those things. And that's what will give you confidence as a fighter. So I honestly believe, like you do, that fight against Campos, that is a good fight, because the one thing about Campos, their wrestling matches up very well. Mm-hmm. It's, Straus had a high school background in wrestling, okay, because he had some problems later on, but he was a phenomenal high school wrestler. Campos has got good wrestling. Their wrestling is going to cancel each other out for a large part of this fight. And I honestly think it's which Derek Campos comes in, because we've seen Derek come in with a lot of confidence, a lot of composure, and then overextend and get caught by somebody. And then we've seen the guy who has actually he's laying back and he's not doing the things he needs to do to take that step forward to get that win. And you're waiting on him. You're saying, where's it at? And this fight right here is going to say a lot about who Derek Campos is. You had Derek's last fight in the European series. What did you think of it?
No, so I actually had a moment to talk with him after the fight. And here's the problem. The problem was he's working 14-hour days, trying to train in the evening, one time a day, and trying to get in phenomenal shape. He finally realized he was burning the candle at both ends, and he basically just kind of put his job on hold the last 2 weeks. The camp's over, though. The last 2 weeks before you fight, your camp is over. If you're not in shape by then, you're really just cooling down by then for your camp. He thought he was going to ramp it up the last 2 weeks and come out there and have a great performance. The one thing I noticed in that thing, and I said it the day he weighed in, he looked flat. His body tone looked flat. Everything about him looked either overtrained or way undertrained. And so when I talked to him, he's like, no, I was undertrained. But doesn't mean that he didn't. What he tried to do is he tried to make it all up in those last 2 weeks. So I think my personal opinion, after looking at him, his eyes looked tired. He looked exhausted. I asked him how the weight cut was. He said it wasn't a problem. All the things. He's like, no, I didn't have a hard time making the weight. It's just that he just really didn't. He tried to cram everything in the last 2 weeks. And when that happens, you overtrain the last 2 weeks. And when you show up, you can see it in his body. It was smooth. There was no definition to his muscle. There was no pump. There was no like striations to his muscle tone, nothing. And when you see when you see that in a fighter, you either know they've overtrained or they've way undertrained.
Yeah.
So my opinion on him was that he said he's going to change. He said he was changing it for this tournament, because I said this. My advice to him was this: is that this is not basketball, football, and hockey where you're just slapping a puck around. Your head's getting bashed in. This isn't something you do half-ass. So if you're going to do this, you have to do it full go or get out. And that's just advice from an old fighter to a younger guy who I think I think he sounded like he was going to take the advice. I just wanted the best for all the guys in this tournament, all of them to come out healthy. And my advice to him was just focus on this fight, especially one fight at a time, but do it 100%. Don't do this half-ass.
You're giving him the best of it. Look at you, either jump both feet all the way in or get out.
Yep.
I mean, if you're not 100% into this, if you are having to, work a job to pay for things and then come into training, it's okay to fight. I'm not saying it's not. It is okay to fight, but you better be fighting on regional shows at a lower level, because you can't do that against the very best. It just doesn't work. And so you're giving him really good advice. And it'll be interesting to see how Derek comes into this, because at 100%, I've done a lot of Derek's fight. He is a just rock solid, tough guy that will stand in front of anybody and go after it. And if he has that mindset, this fight between him and Straus is just going to be incredible.
No, I agree with you 100%. I think Straus has the speed and the power advantage. Campos has the grittiness to walk through whatever Straus does and try and land the big shots like you saw against Gertz. He'll be that kind of fighter where he just tries to walk through it, slip and move, and throw counters. And if he can get on there and touch Straus's chin, it changes the dynamic of the fight. But I think Straus's speed and power and the ability to cut angles like he did in his last fight is going to be the difference in the fight. I'm going to lean a little bit towards Straus, even coming off the major injury. But I want to see if Campos made the adjustments that we talked about in the UK series.
Yeah, so everything you're saying. If you're 2 weeks out of the fight, man, all the hay's in the barn. That's not the time to start trying to put it there.
Exactly.
If you don't have it all in the barn by then, it's not going to go.
Yeah.
So good advice as far as what you're giving.